3.4, the slope of a line. Find the slope of a line given 2 points on the line. So we use the slope formula. It's m equals rise over 1, run, which is change in y over change of x, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. x2 can never equal x1. You'll see what happens when that is the case. Let's go ahead and find the slope of the line through 0, 3, and 2, 5. So since we're using a formula because we need to find the slope, let's label our points. We have x1, y1, and then x2, y2. So in our formula, so m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's go ahead and plug in our points. So y2, that's 5. y1 is 3. x2 is 2. x1 is 0. Let's go ahead and simplify. We have 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. And 2 divided by 2, always simplify fractions. Always simplify fractions. It's 1. So our slope is 1. And that's the same thing as 1 over 1, but we just say 1. Alright, you know slope. You've done this before. Go ahead and pause this and try B. To find the slope of a line containing the points 4, negative 3, and 2, 2, label your points. And we're going to plug them into our formula. So we have m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2, we have positive 2, minus y1 is negative 3. Since it's negative, we wrap it. Sorry, wrong colors. And then x2, which is 2, over or minus x1, which is 4. So we know minus minus become plus plus. So 2 plus 3 is 5. 2 minus 2 is negative 2. So 5 over negative 2 is the same thing as negative 5 over 2. And that's the same thing as negative, on the outside, 5 over 2. So you put the negative wherever you want to go. When it's a fraction, it honestly does not matter. But I will say, that's the one that I would write. I don't know. It honestly doesn't matter. Let's find the slope of a given equation. So we already practiced this a little bit, and we've talked about slope-intercept form. So we know that the slope is the number with the x, the y-intercept is 0, and the number. So let's go ahead and find the slope. In order to find the slope, we need to solve for y, because it needs to be y equals mx plus b. So we're going to subtract 7x to both sides. And when we do, we're left with negative 9y equals negative 7x plus 2. And then divide everything by negative 9. So when we do, we have y equals positive 7 over 9 x plus 2 over 9. So the slope is always the number with the x. So that means our m is 7 over 9. The y-intercept, let's just do it. Why not? The y-intercept is 0, 2 over 9. Now if you were to graph this, the y-intercept, you use decimals. But the slope, that would be up 7, right 9. Interpreting slope-intercept form. So the adult one-day pass price for Disney World is given by the function y equals 3.53x plus 67.39, where x is the number of years since 2006. Use this equation to predict prices in 2026, and we're also going to talk a little bit more about what certain things mean here. Alright, so it says x is the number of years since 2006. So 2026 minus 2006, that's 20 years has passed. So that means x is 20. Let's go ahead and plug it in. We have y equals 3.53x, which is 20, plus 67.39. So 3.53 times 20, we get 70.6, plus 6739, and we get $137.99. So in 2026, it's going to be about $138. That seems about right. So the function we're given, the equation we're given, is negative 3.53x plus 67.39. So remember how I told you that that's called the y-intercept, but I also like to call it the start. So what it means is because we're collecting this data from 2006, so in 2006, the average price was $67.39. That's what that means. And the 3.53, that means the ticket, so the price increases about $3.53 every year. That's about. It could be a little more, a little less, but this is like the closest guess we can get to. It's a great guesstimate. Alright, finding slope of horizontal and vertical lines. So remember, x is always undefined and y is always 0. So let's find the slope. We're going to talk about special slopes now. So we have m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So label your points x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm not going to change colors for this one. So we have y2, which is 3, minus y1, which is 4, over 2, x2 minus x1, so 2 minus 2, and we get negative 1 over 0. Are you allowed to have? Now, can 0 ever be in the denominator? No, it can't. You can't divide by 0. It's impossible. If you try with your calculator, you get an error. So if you get an error, you know that's undefined. Sweet, right? Alright. For b, let's go ahead and do that one. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So m equals y2, so 6 minus y1, which is 6, over x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is 9. So that's 0 over negative 7. And that is 0. If you plug that into your calculator, you get 0, so our slope is 0. So this would be a y equals a number, and this would be x equals a number. Compare slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines, two lines that never intersect are called parallel. Parallel lines have the same slope but different y-intercept, unless they are vertical, which have no slope. Vertical lines are also parallel. Perpendicular slopes are two lines that intersect at right angles and are called perpendicular lines. Two non-vertical perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals of each other. The product of their slopes would be negative 1. So if you have two slopes, you multiply them and it equals negative 1. They're perpendicular. Horizontal and vertical lines are perpendicular to each other. So negative reciprocal, what that means is flip and change. We'll talk more about that. So determine whether the line 6x plus 2y equals 9 is parallel to negative 3x minus y equals 3. So first we need to, because parallel perpendicular has everything to do with slope, we have to find the slope. So for the first one, I'm going to subtract 6x. So we have 2y equals negative 6x plus 9, divide by 2. So we get y equals negative 3x plus 9 over 2. So that means our m is negative 3. So for an order to be parallel, the m needs to be negative 3. So for our next one, we need to solve for y. We're going to add 3x to both sides. And when we do, we have negative y equals 3x plus 3. Multiply by negative 1, so we have y equals negative 3x minus 3. So our m is negative 3. Since they are identical, these are parallel lines. Now let's determine whether these two lines are perpendicular. So we're going to basically do the same thing and compare the slopes. Alright, so for example 6, let's go ahead and find the slopes of each of these. So I'm going to subtract x to both sides. So we have 3y equals negative x minus 15, divide by 3. So we get y equals negative 1/3 x minus 5. So that means our m is negative 1/3. Our next one, we're going to add 3x over to both sides. So we have y equals 3x minus 1. So that means our m is 3. To check them, we multiply. So negative 1/3 times 3 over 1. That's negative 3 over 3, which is negative 1. So these are perpendicular. We're going to determine whether the following lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So basically same thing. Let's compare our slopes. So for our first one, we have negative 5x plus y equals negative 6. I'm going to add 5x over. So we have y equals 5x minus 6. So our m is 5. For our second one, we have x plus 5y equals 5. So I'm going to subtract x to both sides. We have 5y equals negative x plus 5. Divide by 5. We get y equals negative 1/5 x plus 1. So our m is negative 1/5. They're not the same, so they're not parallel. And let's see if we can compare them without multiplying. So the opposite of positive is negative, and the opposite of 5 over 1 is 1 over 5. So these are perpendicular. The pitch of a roof is its slope. Find the pitch of the roof. So slope, that's rise over run. So for the rise, it's up 14. And for the run, it's to the right, 18. So it's 14 over 18, which we can simplify. Divide by 2, we get 7 over 9. So that's our slope of the roof. One of the top 10 occupations in terms of job growth in the next few years is expected to be registered nurses. The number of people Y in the thousands employed as registered nurses in the US can be estimated by the linear equation 527x minus 10y equals negative 27,110, where x is the number of years after 2012. Find the slope and y-intercept. What does the slope imply and what does the y-intercept imply? So to find the slope and the y-intercept, it needs to be in y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to bring down our equation. 527x minus 10y equals negative 27,110. Let's solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 527x. And when we do, we have negative 10y equals negative 527x minus 27,110. We're going to divide by negative 10. So we get y equals 527 over 10 plus 2711. So A, the slope, that's 527 over 10, which kind of means nothing to me. So that's 52.7. And then the y-intercept is 2711. For B, it's asking us to imply the slope. So the slope implies that the number of grads grow by 52.7 people. Sorry, 52.7 thousand, because it's in the thousands. C, it's the y-intercept. So what does the y-intercept imply? When the data was collected, 2711,000, so 2,711,000 RNs graduated, because that's when they started. That's why we call the y-intercept your start.